Oi! Yes! What's going on, everybody? It's Monday night. We got UFC 273 coming up on Saturday. We got 13 fights on this card, 2 title fights, a fantastic main card. But the fight that we're going to be talking about tonight on the new MMA Engine YouTube channel is going to be the undercard matchup between Jairzinho Biggie Boy Rozenstruik and Marcin Tybura. A heavyweight matchup, a striker versus grappler matchup, and one that promises to be an interesting stylistic matchup to break down from a stylistic and a tape study perspective. Welcome to all of you out there watching on a late Monday night. I'm your host, Uncle Weezy. We're going to be breaking down all the stats of this fight. I've got links in the description to this video, you guys. It's going to be the link to Stat Diggers that we did on Pub Sports Radio last night. Is going to be the link to the MMA Engine main event deep dive that my man DFS by the Numbers and I did earlier today, and also a link to all the stats that we're going to be looking at on this program today. I've got basically the stats for all 13 fights on this card and the player cards and career UFC statistics for each one of the 26 fighters on this card. You can download them for free in the description of the video. Let's see what's going on with you guys in the chat out here tonight. The first one in the chat, my guy Big J in the room, and he's got some flapjacks with butter on them that look absolutely delicious. And guess what? That's what we're always trying to do here on the MMA Engine YouTube channel and on my YouTube channel, and that's to stack cash tickets like flapjacks that you see right there, just stacked up neatly, one on top of each other. Butter, syrup, deliciousness. This is what we're looking for, you guys. We're thirsty for that cheddar. We want that money coming in, and what better way to do it than to break down these fights from all the possible angles and to find the places where the bookies fucked up. We want to take advantage of their mistakes and come out of the casino with the money bags in our hands, baby. Big J, welcome to the room. Thanks for hanging out with us. DFS by the Numbers in the room, my man, saying, "Oi, what's up, dude?" And we got Victor De Jesus in the room saying, "Oi, yes, let's break down this fight the same way we want to break the bookies. Let's do it, Victor. It's good to see you in here, brother. Always good to see you out here supporting the channel." And my man Chris is always doing the same, saying, "Oi, respect." What's up, Chris? Good to see you in here. My man Daz File saying, "Oi." We got Lou Betya saying here for the hookers and blow and props. Yes, sir. Hookers, blow, and props as well. We're going to talk about props. We're going to talk about grappling stats, striking stats, tail of the tape, experience, finish stats, strength of schedule, last 5, basically from nose to toes, from east to west. We're going to give you all the angles. My man Lou Betya, always here for the debauchery. John Kane saying, "Oi, let's go, Weezy. Let's get this bread." What's up, John? Good to see you in here. Paul Brassfield saying, "Oi, Unk, salute." What's up, Paul? Good to see you in here. And we got Nandalal Rosiah saying, "Profits ahoy." I love it, man. Let's get it, you guys. Let me bring up my screen here, share it with you guys, see if my guy Smooth Jimmy Apollo is ready to break down all the stats on this particular fight here. Let's see, get that right there. And yeah, there he is. There's my guy Smooth Jimmy. And we've got the stats right here on the screen for you guys. And we're going to start like we always do with the tail of the tape. And we got Jairzinho Rozenstruik is going to be the younger man here at 34 years of age. We got Marcin Tybura clocking in at 36. He's going to be 1 inch taller than Biggie Boy, according to the UFC statistics. But the last time that we saw Rozenstruik's height, it was listed at 6'4". This guy's more like 5'11". So it's going to be Tybura, who's probably going to be about 4 inches taller in real life here. But they both have a 78-inch reach, and you can't fake that because they actually do measure that in the UFC, while they'll actually take your word for it when you say how tall you are. Both of these guys are orthodox fighters. We got Rozenstruik fighting out of Team Biggie Boy, but I believe he's been training at ATT as well. And then we got Marcin Tybura coming out of Jackson Wink. Marcin Tybura from Poland, and then Jairzinho Biggie Boy Rozenstruik, Suriname, stand up. It is your only fighter that is in the UFC, and Jairzinho Rozenstruik is carrying that flag for the great nation of Suriname. Now, and when we go to the experience numbers, you guys, we're going to see a significant MMA experience advantage here for Marcin Tybura, although Jairzinho has a long and storied combat sports experience history here, you guys having a extensive kickboxing background prior to the MMA. But 14 more professional fights for Marcin Tybura, about 180 more minutes in the cage, and about 6 months more as an MMA professional. We see that he's fought about half of his fights at the UFC level, while for Jairzinho Rozenstruik, it's actually 60% of his fights, MMA fights, have been at the UFC level. But we got Tybura with those 6 more fights has actually been in the UFC cage for 100 more minutes. And then when we look at the finish stats for these guys, we're going to see that Rozenstruik has finished 11 of his 12 wins inside the distance. All of those finishes are by KO. And for Tybura, he has knocked out 41% of his wins. He's sub 27% of his wins, and that gives us a 68% finish rate. So 32%, that would be 7 of those 22 wins coming by way of decision. So Tybura definitely does know how to win minutes and get to decisions as well, while Jairzinho Rozenstruik basically is just winning fights by knocking dudes out. When we look at how they lose, neither one of these guys has ever been subbed in a loss. And Tybura has been knocked out in 57% of his overall losses. That's 4 of his 7 losses and 3 of his 6 UFC losses. He's been knocked out. And Rozenstruik's been knocked out in 1 of his 3 UFC losses. That was by one guy named Francis Ngannou. So let's see here. You got my guy MMA Asphalt stopped into the room saying, "Oi, oi, oi, what's up, dude?" And we got Jay saying Zombie isn't 5'7" about 5'9". Rose is about 6'1". I don't think he's 6'1", man. You look at this guy. I mean, it's not just because he fought some tall guys. This guy, he's 5'11", dude. I mean, like, he's not even close to 6'4", and I don't even think he's 6'2". I think when Tybura and Rozenstruik, square off, you're going to see Tybura is probably 3 or 4 inches taller than this guy, because Tybura is listed at 6'3", but he's going to be way taller than Biggie Boy. Junior Dos Santos was like 4 or 5 inches taller than Rozenstruik when I was just watching the footage on those guys. But yeah, these guys lie about their damn height all the time, Jay. Thanks for stopping in, brother. So yeah, the striking stats. Now, this is the interesting part here. This is definitely a striker versus grappler matchup. And both of these guys are orthodox fighters, and that's actually very important because Jairzinho has power in both hands, you guys. He definitely does throw the right hand, looking as the big power shot, but he stops people with his jab. He stops people with his left hook. He's got power in both of those hands. And he is a kickboxer. He throws great leg kicks, body kicks, and head kicks as well. But one thing that I have noticed is he will let go with those kicks when he's not worried about his opponent taking him down. So I don't necessarily know if we're going to see Jairzinho throw those kicks as much as we're used to seeing him throw them against guys like Dos Santos, who we didn't really have to worry about being taken down by. Tybura will catch kicks and take you down. I mean, it's how he beat Walt Harris. He caught a kick, jacked up that leg, and then got a trip, got on top of him, and finished him via ground and pound. So, Rozenstruik's going to have to be careful about what weapons he presents. But I love the fact for Rozenstruik that Tybura is a orthodox fighter, because the orthodox versus orthodox matchup means that Jairzinho is going to be able to set up all of his other strikes with his jab, and he's knocked people out with his jab. His jab is very, very crisp, very straight to the target, and it hurts. So the lead jab, the lead left hook, and the big right hand are the 3 weapons that you have to watch out most for from Rozenstruik. And we got Rozenstruik here, who is showing a lot of power, you guys. We see this number right here, 2.5% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed. Now, that means that Jairzinho has landed 6 knockdowns in 9 UFC fights. So, and he's spread them around too. It's not like he knocked one guy down 4 times. He's spread these knockdowns around and is looking very good when he gets knockdowns. And he is averaging 1.05 knockdowns for 15 minutes. So this is a guy who brings sick power into the cage with him. And it's the kind of guy that you just don't want to be making mistakes on the feet against this guy. You don't want to be rushing in. He will wait to counter you. And he also does love to pressure his opponent, back them up against the cage to where they don't have far, anywhere to go. And then once he corners you, he will start throwing that right hand. That's the power hand. That's the hand he looks to punt your head into the 14th row with. And if he connects with that thing, ask Alistair Overeem how that feels. 5 seconds left in that fight, and he walked away after landing one right hand down the middle. So this guy's got ridiculous power. So we do know that while Marcin Tybura has had 15 UFC fights and he's fought some of the best strikers that the UFC heavyweight division has to offer, he doesn't want to be on the feet against this guy. That is not his easiest path to victory. His easiest path to victory is catching kicks, getting takedowns, getting this thing into the clinch to where Jairzinho can't load up that big right hand, where he can't land that jab, and where he can't manage distance and land power shots against you. When we look at the numbers here on the aggregate, 9 UFC fights for Rozenstruik, and he absorbs a little bit more than he lands, but that's fine when you have the kind of power that Jairzinho has. He lands 2.8, and he absorbs 3.07 significant strikes per minute. Jairzinho is very low volume, guys. He's very patient. He's happy to wait to counter. He's happy to march you down and not throw much and wait until he gets you cornered to unleash a barrage. He's kind of like Derek Lewis, where he will just kind of sit back and wait until he's comfortable to unleash a barrage. He's not going to really throw one strike at a time. He does throw a lot in combination. Excuse me, a little something in my throat, you guys. Hang on just a second. So Rozenstruik is generally going to try to march you down, land a big shot, very low volume. When he's not marching you down, he is looking to counter. He'll be very comfortable throwing kicks, but probably not in this fight for worries about getting those kicks caught and being taken down. He barely threw any kicks in the Blades fight. And that was smart because Blades will catch your kicks and take you down. And Blades did get a takedown in all 3 rounds of that fight. So, obviously Blades is very good on the feet, just like Tybura also is very good on the feet. But he's way more comfortable when he's on top of you, when he's wrestling you, when he's got your back against the mat and he's working his ground and pound. And that is certainly where Marcin Tybura should be the most comfortable in this fight. So Marcin's going to want to get this thing to the ground, and Jairzinho is going to want to keep it standing. We look at the numbers here as a whole. Jairzinho's striking defense, not good at 45.77%. He's been knocked down once in 9 fights and is only being knocked down 0.18 times per 15 minutes. Now, Tybura has only landed 1 knockdown in 677 significant strikes landed. That's 1 knockdown in 15 fights. So he's not a guy, even for a heavyweight, that's bringing power to the cage with him. He is definitely a grappler first. He does land a few more strikes than he absorbs. Lands 3.65 and absorbs 3.44. He's a little more defensively responsible on the feet at 54.85% striking defense. He's been knocked down 4 times in 638 significant strikes absorbed. So there's definitely chance for Jairzinho to land a big shot, and Tybura has been knocked down in the past. However, when you watch a couple of the more recent fights, you see that this dude does have a chin. Walt Harris was clocking Tybura early in the fight. And while Harris is a lot faster and a lot more athletic than Jairzinho, I think Jairzinho does have just more raw power than Walt does. But there's absolutely an avenue here for Marcin to eat a big shot and go down. And if there's anybody in the UFC that's very good at doing that, it's Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Now, this is usually the most clear representation of whether a guy can talk a big game and say, my jiu-jitsu is great. I'm just as comfortable on the ground as I am standing up. I'm a well-rounded fighter. Wherever the fight goes, I can handle myself. But they're fucking lying when they say shit like that. When you see numbers like this, you guys, grappling statistics, Biggie Boy, 0 takedowns attempted in 9 fights, and 36 takedowns attempted against him. That's the mark of a striker. A striker is not ever trying to get the fight to the ground because he's most comfortable on the feet. And it's easy to have good fight IQ when you're a striker because you're just all you have to do is avoid the grappling. And that means you don't try takedowns and you try to stop the ones that come your way. So there it is. 0 takedown attempts for Rozenstruik, 36 takedown attempts against him. So 4 takedown attempts is the amount that his opponents are trying to take him down. And Tybura is attempting just under 4 takedown attempts per fight. So Tybura should be kind of offering the same amount of grappling offense than Rozenstruik is used to seeing in his UFC career thus far. So whatever Tybura brings in terms of wrestling attack is not going to be anything that Jairzinho hasn't seen before. He's seen 36 takedown attempts in 9 fights against him, 36 takedown attempts in 85 minutes of cage time, and he's been controlled for 26% of that cage time. So, that right there, you can take off 20 minutes of that. So in about 65 minutes of stand-up time for Rozenstruik, he's seen 36 takedown attempts against. So he knows they're coming. And Tybura is getting his takedown attempts at a decent percentage, not great. 32.76% is not the kind of percentage that inspires confidence that he's definitely going to be able to get the fight to the ground. But the fact that he out takedowns his opponents 19-5 and out controls his opponents about 30% to 14%, that does inspire some confidence there, because we do see that Tybura's fights are taking place in grappling positions about 44% of the time. So that's 4 out of 9 seconds of a fight. Tybura is either in control or being controlled. And the other thing about that is that Rozenstruik doesn't control his opponents at all. He's not even trying to. He's got less than 1% control time for. So when these fights do go into control time positions, it's probably going to be Tybura being the one that's doing the controlling here. Now, Rozenstruik has pretty decent takedown defense, you guys. 75% on paper isn't bad. 26% control time against. That means he's spending 75% of or 74% of his fights standing, and 74% is enough for a striker as powerful as Jairzinho to land one big strike that changes the tide of a fight. Jairzinho is really not a minute winner, you guys. These guys that are big power punchers very rarely are minute winners. And we know that Rozenstruik's never going to use grappling to win minutes, especially not against a BJJ black belt in Marcin Tybura. So he's going to win minutes of this fight and win moments of this fight standing. So he's just got to try to stop these takedowns from Tybura. And Tybura's gotten 19 takedowns in 15 fights. He's averaging 1.54 takedowns per 15 minutes. But this is very interesting, you guys. 15 fights, 0.08 submission attempts per 15 minutes. That means Marcin Tybura has only attempted 1 submission in 15 UFC fights. And that's something that we have to really bear in mind here. That's a very important statistic, because this is a fight that has a fight doesn't go to decision that's a little bit juiced up here. However, we see that Rozenstruik has only finished fights via KO, and Tybura in the UFC has only finished fights via KO. So if we want to get a better fight doesn't go to decision line, we can get on that fight ends by KO line and get a much better line than what we're getting for fight doesn't go to decision, and just kind of hope that Tybura doesn't attempt his second submission attempt in this fight, because Jairzinho Rozenstruik couldn't submit anybody at this level, much less a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in Marcin Tybura. So striker versus grappler matchup here, you guys. Can Rozenstruik keep it standing? Because if he does, over 15 minutes at some point, he's going to land a big enough shot to get a knockdown here and get a big win. And if Tybura can kind of work the game plan that we saw Blades work in the most recent fight against Rozenstruik here, and obviously we have to keep in mind, DFS by the numbers says fight ends in KO is only minus 170, sadly. That's terrible, because like right now, the fight doesn't go to decision is minus 185. So I thought that would be something cheeky that we could get maybe close to even money. But evidently the bookies are all over it, and they read your Uncle Weezy's mind. So I was no help there, but thank you for that, Brady. We got my guy David Dennett in the room saying we got Tybura taking on Biggie Boy. Let's get it, man. That's good. And we got the Cuban Assassin saying Weezy Wheeze. Let's get it this week. Just watch the UFC embedded. Aljo is fucking hard to like. I think he's getting the light bill on Saturday. Man, yeah, Peter Yan, dude. Peter Yan is so fucking good. He's a big favorite for a reason. And it's always scary, when you're laying minus 800 on somebody like Volkanovski against somebody as dangerous as the Korean Zombie. Korean Zombie's a top 5 featherweight, so it's hard to say like, oh, I'm going to lay minus 800 against a fighter that good. And Aljamain Sterling is like the second or third best fucking, bantamweight on the planet. But Peter Yan is just that dude. He's that good. So, I really do see Yan getting the job done here. It's hard to picture a path for Aljamain Sterling other than some kind of a freak submission, a freak back take, something like that. But, man, you got to believe that Peter Yan is going to be the new champion on Saturday here and avenge that ridiculous loss, that dumbass DQ loss. I don't know what he was thinking throwing that knee, but anyway, we're back. Aljo's back. We're ready to settle this once and for all. And I think that Jan's going to get his hand raised. So, yeah, man, I agree with you there, Cuban Assassin. And we got minus 235 on FanDuel. Seriously? Yikes, dude. That's fucking bonkers, man. I mean, they didn't even have that line out. They didn't even have props out on FanDuel by the time I started this show. So it looks like FanDuel finally got it out, huh? And fight ends by KO is just an absolutely terrible price. That is just stupid. Either fighter wins by KO minus 170. So, but minus 235 on FanDuel is for what then? I don't know what that is for. Oh, is that the fight doesn't go? Oh my God, fight doesn't go minus 235. So, yeah, it's a much better price than that, but we could still get it at minus 190 on DraftKings. So, yeah, thanks for pointing that out because my minus 170 sounds way better than minus 235. But when you compare it to the minus 190 that you're getting on DraftKings, you could probably get, if DraftKings was offering that prop, something a lot closer to even money. Yeah, fight doesn't go to decision. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but there was something I wanted to talk to you guys about in terms of the advanced stats here. And let's look at Biggie Boy and let's look at Tybura here. So this is Biggie Boy's record. The wins against Augusto Sakai, Junior Dos Santos, Alistair Overeem, Andre Arlovsky, Alan Crowder, and Junior Albini. So we see that this particular line of stats that I'm circling right here is control time 4. And we see Jairzinho never gets control time. 0 seconds, 2 seconds, 0, 9, 0, 6, 2, 2, 14. And we see that he's been out-controlled 4 times in the UFC. 379 seconds of control time for Blades in a loss. 269 seconds out of 1,500 of control time for Gane in a loss. 2 seconds of control time for Ngannou. And then we saw that in this fight, a win against Junior Albini had 187 seconds of control time, but then wound up losing by knockout. But the one thing that is the same in every single Biggie Boy win is this statistic right here, knockdowns, you guys. In every blue row there, we see a 1. Biggie Boy Rozenstruik in every single win, in all 6 wins in the UFC, has scored a knockdown. And in all 3 losses in the UFC, he has not scored a knockdown. No knockdowns against Blades, no knockdowns against Gane, and no knockdowns against the 12-2 Francis Ngannou. So this is a guy who is absolutely, he is knockdown dependent in order to win fights. Will he be able to land that big shot? Because the guy is so poor on the ground at being able to win minutes there and prevent his opponents from winning minutes there. And the guy is so low volume and such a counter striker that the optics are actually kind of bad, in terms of Rozenstruik being able to win minutes. So it's you kind of have to admit, if you're on the Rozenstruik side here, you guys, is that he's KO dependent. and that you might as well just bet him to win by KO. Because if this fight does go for a full 3 rounds and Jairzinho doesn't land a knockdown, you're probably not winning that money line bet, because it probably means that Tybura did get a couple of takedowns and did win some minutes on the ground. And if he's not getting knocked down on the feet, it might be actually pretty close on the feet, because Marcin's going to be bigger. Marcin's not quite longer, but he's going to be about like 4 inches taller, and he's going to be able to throw kicks without worrying about getting taken down, while Rozenstruik isn't going to really, he's going to have to worry and be very careful about where he picks his shots in order to throw those kicks, because he's always going to have to worry about them getting caught and him being taken down, and you do not want to be underneath Marcin Tybura. And then also, something that I noticed here, if we look at the takedowns, we see that Blades got 3, Gane got 2. There were 2 in this fight, and there were 2 in this fight. Every other fight, he wasn't taken down. But in the fights that he's lost, he's been taken down in 2 out of the 3 of them. So, he does need to get, obviously, Tybura does need to get takedowns here. He's not probably going to win a point striking match against Jairzinho on the feet over a 15-minute time period here. It's probably not going to happen. So we do know that Rozenstruik needs to be taken down. And then when we go and we look at our guy Tybura's numbers here, and we look at the wins, well, let's look at the losses here. Volkov, because there's less of them. Sakai, Abdurrahimov, Derek Lewis, and Fabricio Verdum. Let's see how many takedowns he got in those fights. 0 takedowns, 0 takedowns, 0 takedowns, 1 takedown, 1 takedown. So he only got 2 takedowns out of 16, 18, 19 attempts. So he was about 10% on his takedown attempts in these 5 losing efforts. So if we eliminate those takedown numbers from the totals down here, which are 19 of 58. So he had 17 takedowns in 39 attempts in his wins. 17 takedowns, 39 attempts in his winning fights. So he's never lost a fight where he's gotten more than 2 takedowns. In every fight that Marcin Tybura has clocked 2 takedowns or more, he's won them. There's 2 there, there's 5 there, there's 2 there, and there's 3 there. So the wins against Grishin, Spivak, Struve, and Arlovsky, he got 517 seconds of control time, 463 seconds of control time, 502 seconds of control time, and 565 seconds of control time. So, what's the winning recipe for Jairzinho Biggie Boy Rozenstruik? Landing a big shot, landing a knockdown. What's the recipe for victory for Marcin Tybura? 2 takedowns and about 400 seconds of control time. If he does that, he's going to win this fight. If Jairzinho Rozenstruik keeps it standing and lands that one big knockdown, he's going to win this fight. And if neither of those things happen, if Marcin Tybura doesn't get 2 takedowns, and if Jairzinho Rozenstruik doesn't land a knockdown, we might see one of the most boring fights in heavyweight history in the UFC. So that's kind of like the breakdown for this fight. Now, that's the interesting into the stats stuff that I wanted to give you guys. We just wanted to really hammer the point home how much of a striker versus grappler matchup this is, and how important it is for Jairzinho Rozenstruik to stop the takedowns of Marcin Tybura, and how important it is for Tybura to penetrate the takedown defense of Jairzinho Rozenstruik, get this fight to the ground, win minutes there, and potentially even finish the fight via KO down there. Strength of schedule numbers, you guys. If we go over here to the furthest right column in the matchup template, we will see that the ratios for these two guys are a little bit different. 2.15 for Rozenstruik and 1.41 for Tybura, and about one more total fight for Rozenstruik. So that means that he's fighting the slightly more experienced competition and the better win-loss ratio competition. So the average record of a guy that Rozenstruik fights is 9.33 wins and 4.33 losses, and that's in UFC experience. And the average guy that Tybura faces, 7.4 wins, 5.27 losses. So Rozenstruik is fighting the slightly more experienced and the little bit better win-loss ratio competition. And when we look at the wins here, a 1.73 ratio in Rozenstruik's wins, a 1.29 ratio in Tybura's wins. So both these guys are beating solid competition. But once again, it's a little bit better for Rozenstruik, as the average record of a guy that Rozenstruik beats is 9.5 wins and 5.5 losses, and the average record of a guy that Tybura beats, 7.33 wins, 5.67 losses. So it's pretty clear here that both of these guys are high-level heavyweights. It's just also a little bit clearer that Rozenstruik has been that next rung up on the ladder in terms of the competition that he's facing and beating. So Rozenstruik's got a striking advantage here and a big-time power advantage. We've seen Rozenstruik go 5 rounds a couple of different times and look good doing it. So the conditioning, I think, is going to be solid for both of these guys. It's going to be Tybura with a big-time grappling advantage here. And in terms of the tail of the tape, it's very close. The reach is identical. Tybura is going to be a little bit older, Rozenstruik a little bit younger, Tybura a little bit taller, Tybura the more experienced guy. But both of these guys have been doing this right around 10 years as mixed martial artists. Both of these guys have a lot of UFC experience already. It's just that Rozenstruik hasn't been in the cage nearly as much because his average fight time is 9.5 minutes, while Tybura's is 12.35 thus far in the UFC. So, yeah, Rozenstruik's the more powerful guy, the better finisher, and he's fought and beaten the better brand of UFC competition. But Tybura is probably going to be the better minute winner, especially if he successfully mixes in the wrestling here. Because if he does that, he's not only going to be able to perhaps edge out a couple of rounds on the judges' scorecards, but every minute that Jairzinho spends on his back is another minute that he's not on his feet, that he doesn't have that chance to land that big shot, to land that knockdown, that he has 100% win percentage when those knockdowns come. So, you know, the less minutes that Marcin spends on the feet in this fight, the better chance he has to cover that spread here. And the lines, you guys, Rozenstruik sitting around minus 142 now on Bet Online. So a little bit of money coming in on Tybura. You are getting the plus money on Tybura here. And that's intriguing because all you're saying to yourself is all he's got to do is avoid the knockdown. And Tybura has been knocked down like in about a third of his fights. But, you know, that's the chance that you take here. You know that Rozenstruik's just one big bomb away from ending the fight, or at least winning the fight. Whether, you know, it's enough to win a round or 10-8 a guy in a round, that's all that it takes. So this is going to be a very fascinating matchup. When we look at these props, I think if you're betting Biggie Boy at minus 150, I would rather get him at plus 120 Rozenstruik by KO, because I don't know if he wins enough minutes of this fight to win a decision. As a matter of fact, Jairzinho Rozenstruik has never won a decision at the UFC level, while Marcin Tybura has won 4. So I think that if you're on that Rozenstruik side, you probably want to just take that KO prop, because at plus 120, it's a lot better. You know, you only have to risk like 0.8 units in order to win one, instead of risking 1.5 units to win one. So it's a little more than half the exposure for what I think is his only win condition, or at least damn near 80 to 85% of his win condition here. So Rozenstruik by KO, I think Tybura by decision is interesting, and also Tybura by KO at plus 460 is very interesting on FanDuel, because Tybura, when he gets the fights to the ground, is looking for ground and pound. He doesn't look for submissions. We saw that number here, you guys. that there have only been 0.08 submission attempts per 15 minutes. So at 185 minutes of cage time, that I think that comes out to one submission attempt in 15 fights for Marcin Tybura. So we can feel fairly safe that if Tybura does finish this fight, it'll probably be via ground and pound rather than a rear naked choke or something like that. And we can also hang our hat on the fact that Jairzinho Rozenstruik has never been subbed in 15 professional fights. So, I do like Tybura by decision or by knockout. And I wonder if that double chance line gets us any better than plus 130. That would be an interesting look, too. Tybura. They don't have the double chance bets here, unfortunately, but that would be one I would look at as well. As far as a pick goes for this fight, it's hard to pick. I do think that Tybura has a good enough chin to, when Rozenstruik maybe does land a big shot, if it's not a knockdown, he might be able to get into the clinch, get a trip, get some top control time, and win the round that way. Tybura's takedowns, especially the trips and the body locks, are his best takedowns. And those are often the kind of takedowns that get your opponent flat on their back and can really allow you to accumulate top control time, work for submissions, and work for ground and pounds. So this feels like a coin flip fight to me. So I would say that the value is definitely on Tybura. If I was on that Tybura side, I would be looking Tybura by decision or by knockout, double chance on FanDuel to see if I could get better than plus 150 or plus 160 there. That would maybe be a way that I'd play it. And if I'm on the Rozenstruik side, I'm definitely playing that KO prop because the guy is not a good minute winner, you guys. So the pick, the pick is going to be Rozenstruik by knockout with very, very little confidence. Fight ends by KO. I think is a decent bet, but at the current line, I just don't love it. Minus 235, fight doesn't go to decision on FanDuel, is juice to the tits. Minus 190 feels a lot better, but I could see Tybura winning a decision here by getting some takedowns and some top control time. So I'm not gonna touch the time props here. The props that really have the most cachet for me here is Rozenstruik by KO, Tybura by KO, and Tybura by decision. And Tybura by decision is plus 310 on FanDuel. I think that's also an avenue for him. But yeah, you guys, the pick is going to be Jairzinho Rozenstruik by KO. Very little confidence. Let's see what you guys are saying in here. David Dennett saying, honestly, if I see over 1.5 at plus money, I'll take a stab. I'd love to think they'll keep the fight exciting, and some goes night-night, but big cage and lack of volume makes me think it's a snoozer. Yeah, we got the big cage here too, which means that, if Jairzinho does try to walk down Marcin, that potentially he could find enough room to kind of just skirt around the edge and shoot a reactive double leg if Jairzinho gets out over his toes too much. So, yeah, that's a possibility, man. The big cage does kind of make a difference here. And DFS by the numbers saying double chance is plus 140 for Tybura, and he's already plus 130, so you might as well just take the money line if you're on the Tybura side because they're not giving us any reason. They're not really giving us any juice there, so you might as well just take the money line. So thanks, DFS by the numbers, for filling us in on the fact that FanDuel's being a bunch of bitches here and not really juicing up these props like they usually do. But they do have the best Tybura by decision line, and they do have the best Tybura by KO line. So let me just apologize to FanDuel. They always do have great props. So, and thank you guys for hanging out on the MMA Engine YouTube channel here. We've been going almost 40 minutes on Tybura Rozenstruik. I'm going to pick Rozenstruik, but man, I think it's a great fight. And I do think that Marcin Tybura is very live here, and the plus money on him is very intriguing. I wish all of you guys luck on all of your UFC 273 action. I'll be back tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Central Time, and we will be breaking down all 13 fights on this UFC 273 card on my YouTube channel, Just the Tip, with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. And as always, if you stick around to the very end, you're you're going to hear Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And we are on a heater, you guys. We're on a winning streak. We got to keep it going. We got to find out who's going to bring that razor and shaving cream into the cage on Saturday and have a clean performance and shave ass. I'm still figuring out who that's going to be this week. There's a lot of wide lines. Hopefully I can find something closer to even for you guys so that you can make some money. But stay tuned for that. 10 o'clock Central Time tomorrow on my channel. Thank all you guys for hanging out. God bless each and every one of you guys. We got Daz Files saying thanks, Weezy in chat. We got my guy Flavor Blasted Butthole saying oi. And we got Uncertainty saying good night, Uncle Weezy. Good night, all you degenerate gamblers. And let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 273. Thanks for coming to the MMA Engine YouTube channel. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do. We've got some new programming coming up this week. I've been working hard on putting together 13 different prop templates for each weight class to compare the implied probabilities of the betting lines for the fight goes to decision, the fight doesn't go to decision, the over 2.5, the under 2.5, the over 1.5, and the under 1.5. We're going to compare the implied probabilities of all those betting lines to the statistics of how the two fighters in the fight finish fights in wins, losses, and combined wins and losses for fighter A, fighter B, and fighter A and B combined. We're going to look at these props from every possible angle and find the areas where the bookies fucked up and where they're giving us edges. And when we get those edges, we got to take them. Stay tuned. MMA Engine YouTube channel for this brand new prop program. We might be calling it the Gambler's Edge because we want to give all you MMA gamblers out there an edge over these bookies by giving you access to as much analytics and information as we possibly can. Thank you guys. I'm going to head to bed. It's been a long day, and I got a long day to prepare for Just the Tip tomorrow night. So let's get it, you guys. I will see you guys tomorrow night. Sleep well. We'll talk to you soon.